Good day. How are you getting on again now? Just finished our brief overview of chorus. Now here's a big one. And if you thought that was long-winded, wait till you fucking hear this one. Delays. Now, delay is something. I was self-taught. I didn't have lessons or anything like that. And I wish. I think I used to wish I had, but no, not really. But growing up in Newfoundland in the 80s, in Carpentier more specifically, wasn't any guitar teachers really. And, couldn't afford lessons and stuff like that, which is fine. I mean, you muddle through. You make little eureka moments, right? And you have little discoveries. And that happened to me a lot, which, I mean, hybrid picking was one that I didn't know was a technique and just something I ended up doing naturally. Pinch harmonics, like thumb harmonics. I didn't know it was a fucking technique. People kept saying, man, I really like those pinch harmonics you're doing. I'm like, well, thanks. The fuck's a pinch harmonic? And they came by accident because I was using like these little jazz picks and my thumb would brush the string and squeal, and I liked the sound. I didn't know it was a technique. And you have these little discoveries. 1 year, Max got me, was it an overdrive? It was an Arion Overdrive, and I can't remember the model number, but it was the Errol plastic Arion Overdrive with the orange battery cover. And actually, I wouldn't mind finding another one. I think I'm going to hunt one down just for nostalgia's sake. And a DOD or DOD FX90, I think it was. This blue analog delay pedal that I got for Christmas one year, and it was wonderful. I had this Quest Attack 1 guitars, but I wasn't even playing a Tele back then, and a little Fender Sidekick 15 amp, and it didn't even have reverb or two. I mean, it was a solid state little practice amp, and actually I should get. I'd like to get one and be all nostalgic. But anyway, I had this delay pedal, and new echoes were cool, right? And you can and fucking around with it, and you just, like anything, you play with the dials, right? And you end up dialing in, you play with the levels, and you go, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, you can end off a song, and it'll trail off. And then, quite by accident, I figured out how to do, just screwing around with it one day, playing with the volume knob. You do swells. And screw around and make these sounds. And I didn't know that's how, like, you did, like, Cathedral, like, the old off Diver Down. I didn't know it was a fucking technique, It was just something I screwed around with a delay pedal. Something else I figured out quite quickly, and as quick as I kind of discovered it, dismissed it, because it was nothing I was using at the time, was this. Dialing it back for a quick slapback. And, of course, what you get with that slapback is which I use fucking daily now. But it was just something like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And just because I didn't like 50s music at the time, I just kind of went past it. And here's the funniest thing about delay for me was the fact I didn't realize guys were using delay, because there was no internet, there was no rig, we didn't have, there was no Rebecca Dirks back in the day for us, or rig rundowns or anything like that. You had the odd issue of Guitar for the Practicing Musician and Guitar Player, mostly Guitar Player for me, and what I didn't, certainly no internet or YouTube, so I didn't know guys had delay when they were soloing. I just thought they fucking played that fast. No clue. I had no clue. Like if you do, and for Brando, if Still the Night, for example, by Whitesnake, John Sykes goes after the section, the that kind of fake violin. And they go into the more ripping part, and then he goes into that ripping fast solo. I didn't know that was a fucking delay. I thought he was just playing that fast. So I spent years and years working scales and shit out with, and learning to play fast, not realizing it was a fucking delay. Wasn't until years later, and then it's only now that I'm trying to learn how to use it with leads and stuff, because it would just sound wrong to me. But like you take a delay, a short delay, like that, like a very fast slapback, and that's something like, well, I use that, I got the Les Paul on right now, but that's something I'll use like with my telly when I'm chicken picking. Kind of give that kind of nice, almost Peter Anderson-y slapback sound, which again I didn't. Well, I knew Pete Anderson used one because when I listened to old Dwight Yoakam records when I was learning country, and would hear that, but just didn't. I figured it was done after the fact, and I thought someone told me once delay was using echoes was cheating, so I never used it. Now I know better. So a short delay. Again, I'm using a TC flashback, and how I've got the level set right now, or the delay I've got, because this has like a shitload of delays in it, more than I'll ever use in a lifetime. This is on the farthest one, based on the old TC rack mount delay. And I'll use that setting for like when I'm doing U2 kind of stuff. Or if I'm doing that fake, if I bust out Cathedral for whatever fucking reason. When I do use this delay though on gigs is when we have to do Somebody Like You, because that's one of those songs. Like it's a good song, but you just play the living fuck out of it all the time. You have to play it almost every night, and depending on who's hiring you. So to make it a little not easier on myself, but to do it a bit differently, I play it if the edge was sitting in from U2. So instead of just doing it straight with the banjo, he does it on like 6-string banjo or wherever the fuck it is. I'll do it with the echo setting. Sort of thing. Just to make it a bit easier for myself. And even when you go into the... It still kind of works. So you'll have three different... Generally with delays, like you'll have 2 or 3 different knobs or parameters to change. Now, I'm not talking about rack mount stuff because I don't use rack mount stuff. I don't think in milliseconds. I think in knob settings and, ooh, this sounds good. Whatever works for you. Right now, the way this is set for this particular echo, my effects level is pretty much at noon, my delay level is at 11 o'clock, and my feedback, which is the number, actually we probably should talk about that. Feedback would be like the number of repeats. So if I turn my delay on, turn the volume up. So I'll roll it off and gradually bring it back up with my foot, because I'm good like that. So that's all the way off. Almost infinite. I've got that set at 11 o'clock. My delay time, and when you're setting your delay time, now this delay is probably a little bit different because it's got about 10 or 11 different types of delay settings on it that you can just dial in. If I go from what I'm using right now, and if I swing it up to the slap delay, it's going to give me like a more of a rockabilly sort of thing. So unless you have a flashback, no, which I recommend you get. It's fantastic. So if I put it back to that original setting, the old 2290. So that's not much. It's quicker. It's about 3 o'clock. For however long you need. Now there's also tap tempo, which that kind of confuse some people get confused by tap tempo. You can, if your delay is set to a tap tempo, you tap your foot on the pedal in time to the music you want to play, and that's what it'll set to. And then you can set the repeats and things like that. For country picking, I'm gonna switch to the telly. For country picking, I've started and just recently kind of gotten used to this again because I'm not used to having delay. I've started using a quick slap back, and just to try to get used to it, just cause, really, just cause it's cool and it's new and it's interesting for me. So it's something kind of new. So if I'm running around chicken picking. Or whatever. It's giving me that little kind of old school, almost like a old 50s rockabilly. It's a little tighter than rockabilly. Like you could play rockabilly stuff with it, but the difference between that and my rockabilly sound, pretty much, it's pretty close to the same sound, except I have the effect level higher. Like you can make your level of the repeats less equal to or more than, and dial that in to your original signal. So right now it's about 50%. So, but you can hear it. You can almost sense it more than you hear it, and it does fill things out a little bit. You know, it's kind of nice. Now, the trick is though, if you're playing faster stuff, like if I'm doing those repeating double stopping kind of shit, I try not to get that too mushy. I still want the definition. So it just kind of adds like a little bit of space to that sort of thing, because the telly can be kind of thin and punchy otherwise. Some other things you'll want to use delays for. Well, getting back to try the Les Paul again. Back in the day, again, didn't know people use delays when they played fast. I just thought people played that fast, so I learned to play that fast, and then realized that was kind of stupid later on in life. You know, so I've been training myself now to kind of figure out how to use delay when I'm playing like a distorted lead, for example. So if I got the fire on the King of Tone, and which is I'm getting used to, by the way. Lovely. So if you're trying to do like those fast kind of Johnson-y Bonamassa pentatonic runs, getting used to having delay on with it. Getting there, about half the speed. They're about half speed right now. They should be at. But trying to get used to having that on there and not just having to. Having that kind of cushion of delay there is lovely. I don't know how I ever got along with I love that little bang, 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 bang at the end. It's gimmicky as shit, but I like it because I like shit like that. You know, or if you're doing, like if you're ending a phrase, you know, you can have that kind of repeating at the end. It's kind of cool. You know, so schmutzing around with that kind of shit, you know, it's kind of neat. If you're doing, even if I'm starting to get used to it, like using like on like slower ballady kind of, you know, like Still Got the Blues by Gary Moore. Just to add a little bit more to the sound without drenching it in reverb or something like that, or having it sounding too dry. But I kind of like having that, like, you know, kind of slapbacky kind of sound on, and kind of getting used to that sort of thing, which is a big step for me because I've always been too cheap to buy batteries for them, I suppose. Anyway, so that's a bit too much and long-winded on delay pedals, and just that's just how I use them. I mean, there's infinite ways of using them, and guys who use them way better than I do. You know, I try not to overuse it. There's something like I use it for rockabilly. That's pretty much for me key for playing rockabilly, and I'm getting more used to using them now for lead and country and stuff like that. So anyway, grab a delay pedal, fuck around with it, and don't overuse it. It's a spice, right? You don't want too much. You don't want fucking paprika on everything, and you don't want too much of it or too little. Think of it like a spice and go from there. Anyway, cheers. Off you go.